What if everything you've been taught about life wasn't just incomplete, but a lie? Not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, a perfectly packaged illusion, sold to you since you could walk, go to school, work hard, be somebody, make money, get the house, find the one, be happy. And if you're not happy, that's your fault, right? But what if it isn't? Leo Tolstoy followed that path. He won the game. Fame, wealth, legacy. He was read across continents, praised by kings, honored like a prophet. And yet, he stood at the edge of his life, utterly hollow. He wrote in his journal that he no longer saw the point of writing, of living, of waking up. He said, "Something strange began to happen with me. At first, I experienced moments of perplexity and arrest of life, as though I did not know how to live or what to do. I felt lost. And if you're not happy, that's your fault, right? But what if it isn't?" Leo Tolstoy followed that path. He won the game. Fame, wealth, legacy. He was read across continents, praised by kings, honored like a prophet. And yet, he stood at the edge of his life, utterly hollow. He wrote in his journal that he no longer saw the point of writing, of living, of waking up. He said, "Something strange began to happen with me. At first I experienced moments of perplexity and arrest of life, as though I did not know how to live or what to do. I felt lost. And deep down you already know that. So stay with me. We're going to follow Tolstoy into the silence behind the noise, into the darkness behind the light, into the place where real questions live and easy answers die. And maybe in watching him fall, you'll stop falling alone." What if everything you've been taught about life wasn't just incomplete, but a lie? Not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, a perfectly packaged illusion, sold to you since you could walk, go to school, work hard, be somebody, make money, get the house, find the one, be happy. But the deeper he looked into life, into himself, the less sense it all made. He began to question everything: the church, the government, his fame, his own books. He wrote, "My life came to a standstill. I could breathe, eat, sleep, but there was no life in me." He played the part of the great man, but inside, he was begging for something real, something true. The applause had become a kind of noise, a distraction from a truth too heavy to carry. You've felt it too, haven't you? That split, the version of you the world sees, and the one you meet when you're alone. One is loud, one is silent, and eventually, the silence starts screaming. There's a moment when the silence becomes unbearable. Tolstoy reached it alone, surrounded by admirers, family, students, servants, but completely alone. He said, "I could not attach a rational meaning to a single act of my life. The truth was, life had stopped." He began to avoid guns, not because he feared them, but because he feared what he might do if he held one long enough. This wasn't sadness, this was collapse. And the worst part? He had no one he could tell. Because who would understand? He had it all. He was supposed to be grateful. He was supposed to be wise. But what if wisdom means admitting you're lost? Right now, maybe you feel it too. That quiet ache you ignore with scrolling. That sense that the world is moving, but you're not really in it. You laugh, you work, you play the part. But something inside you doesn't buy it anymore. And if that's true, you don't need another motivational quote. You need silence. You need truth. You need to stop running. So stop, just for a moment, and ask yourself the same thing Tolstoy asked at the edge. What if everything I believe isn't real? If this speaks to something inside you, don't scroll past it. Stay with this. Sit in it. Let it burn a little, because maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just waking up. And if that's true, you owe it to yourself to see what's on the other side of this silence. Subscribe, not to this channel, but to this moment. When you've lost everything inside, you don't search with hope. You search because not searching feels like death. Tolstoy didn't set out to find meaning. He set out to survive his own thoughts. He turned to what he knew: religion, philosophy, science. He read the great minds. He prayed in empty rooms. He tried to drown himself in knowledge, but every book felt like a bandage on a wound that kept bleeding. He said, "I sought answers in the minds of others, but their truths couldn't hold the weight of my pain." He looked at his church and saw ritual. He looked at science and saw mechanics. He looked at politics and saw lies. Nothing touched the ache inside, and so he kept going. Not because he believed there was something to find, but because stopping meant collapsing. There's a kind of courage no one talks about. Not the courage to fight, not the courage to win, but the courage to look at the void and keep walking anyway. Maybe you felt that too. That tired kind of bravery, where you don't want to be a hero, you just want to not disappear. That's where Tolstoy was, and in that shadow, his search truly began. It wasn't a revelation, not a thunderclap, no vision, no voice, no miracle. It was something quieter, smaller, but it stayed. Tolstoy, in the middle of despair, began watching peasants, not scholars, not saints, simple people, men and women working the fields, raising children, dying quietly. And he noticed something strange. They were poor, they suffered, but they lived with a kind of peace he couldn't touch. They believed in something, not perfectly, not theologically, but deeply. They worked, prayed, and died, without writing books or chasing legacy, and somehow, they made sense of life in a way he couldn't. Tolstoy wrote, "It was in their humility, in their silent strength, that I first saw something real." It shook him, not because they had answers, but because they weren't asking the same questions. They didn't need the world to understand them. They didn't fear insignificance. They just lived. And for a man drowning in overthinking, their simplicity was revolutionary. He began to wonder, what if truth isn't something you find? What if it's something you return to? What if you don't need to be brilliant, to be whole? For a while, that small light gave Tolstoy something, not hope, but a pause in the despair. But light flickers, and sometimes it fades. As he tried to rebuild his worldview, the questions came back, sharper, darker. What if the peasants weren't right? What if their peace was just ignorance? What if meaning is just a story we tell ourselves to stay sane? Tolstoy feared that his glimpse of peace was just another illusion, like fame, like philosophy, like success. He wrote, "I wanted to kill myself, yet was somehow held back by a hope that there was still something I could not name." He oscillated between clarity and collapse. One moment writing about love, the next staring into the void again. That's how the journey really goes. It's not straight. It's not clean. It's a circle, a spiral, a storm. Sometimes when you finally feel something real, your mind tries to kill it. Because we're not trained to live in truth. We're trained to survive in illusion. But Tolstoy didn't stop. Even when doubt roared back, he kept moving. Because something inside him, some part he hadn't killed yet, refused to die. It came quietly, not with force, but with stillness. Tolstoy was walking through his estate. Same land, same trees, same path, but something felt different. He had spent years dissecting life, cutting it open with philosophy, with logic, with language. And in all that noise, he had forgotten how to listen. That day, he watched a child laugh. A worker pause to pray. A leaf drift from a tree like time letting go. And then it hit him, not as a thought, but as a knowing. Life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived. He had been asking the wrong questions, looking for purpose in ideas instead of in presence. Meaning wasn't hiding in a book. It was there, in breath, in being. in the fact that despite everything, you're still here. That was it. Not a final answer, not a philosophy, just a moment, a truth you don't read, a truth you feel. And for the first time in years, Tolstoy didn't want to die. He wanted to live, not as a writer or a thinker or a name, but as a man. This was never just about Tolstoy, it's about you, because you've been chasing things too, trying to build a life that looks right, but feels wrong. You post, you perform, you succeed, and yet something in you still whispers, none of this is real. You scroll past faces smiling through filters, likes that vanish tomorrow, goals that aren't even yours. You think if you just fix yourself, read more, run more, achieve more, you'll finally feel okay. But maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just drowning in a system that profits from your confusion. That tells you you're not enough, so it can sell you something that won't fix you. Tolstoy saw it early, that the noise is endless, and the silence is sacred. So stop. Just stop. Not forever, not dramatically, just for this breath. And ask, what do you know is true without needing to prove it? What part of you is tired of pretending? What part of you just wants to come home? That's where it begins. Not in answers, not in achievement, but in attention to what hurts, to what matters, to what's been waiting for you beneath all the noise. You've been running a long time, from silence, from stillness, from the part of you that never needed fixing, only noticing. But you're here now. And so was Tolstoy, sitting under the same sky he had ignored for years, not writing, not preaching, just being. He said, I understood that my life had a meaning, that the meaning was not something I could invent, but something I had always known. What if that's true for you too? What if the meaning of life is not hidden in success or love or legacy, but in returning to what's always been true? That you are here, you are alive, and you are allowed to begin again. This isn't a conclusion, it's a permission to let go, to rest, to stop pretending, and maybe, just maybe, to come home to yourself. So the next time the silence comes, don't run from it. Sit with it, listen to it, let it undo you. Because on the other side of undoing is not emptiness, but everything you were looking for in all the wrong places. And if that sounds like you, then maybe this story was never about Tolstoy. Maybe it was always about you. You don't need to become Tolstoy, but you do need to become you. The version of you that's present, awake, and ready to live without armor. If this message stirred something in you, don't scroll away. Pause, breathe, reflect. Then share this video with someone who's still chasing applause when what they really need is silence. Subscribe if you're ready to walk this journey inward with me, and comment below. What are you ready to let go of? Because truth isn't something we reach, it's something we return to. Welcome back.